大家好，我叫陈东波，一个来自河南信阳的农村姑娘。
Hello everyone, my name is Chen Donghua. I am a rural girl from Xi'an, Hunan. I abandoned my old job and, through the trust of clients and help from others, officially established my own company, Minshang, on August 15, 2017. With hard work and experience, I have gained recognition in the fashion industry. On November 28, 2018, my company's headquarters settled in Guangzhou. After a year of hard work, the company established 8 subsidiaries, developed 750 physical stores. As time passed, by the end of 2019, I had more than 500 employees. But nothing good lasts forever. As China's economy went downhill, so did my customers. All of my stores closed, inventory piled up, and the company's financial situation became tighter. At that time, I financed, borrowed, sold houses to withstand the pressure. But, eventually, in January 2022, I couldn't bear it anymore. My company was surrounded by creditors, followed by an endless bombardment of debt collection. In the end, I have over $100 million in debt for the company. My husband and I gave our savings worth of a lifetime of hard work to the creditors. Money can be earned again, but once trust is lost, it is difficult to rebuild. The money my husband and I earned with hard work was lost due to my own lack of understanding of the market, and in the end, my family paid the price. My company officially closed its doors on January 10, 2022.
公司于2022年的1月10号正式停业。
In the intricate web of global commerce, a seismic shift has occurred, marking a pivotal moment in the history of international trade relations. For the first time since 2002, the United States has imported more goods from Mexico than from China, underscoring a realignment of trade partnerships and supply chain strategies that resonates across economies and borders. This historic shift is not merely a statistic but a reflection of evolving geopolitical tensions, supply chain disruptions, and a global reevaluation of trade practices and partners. Without the import of the Western world, many companies, enterprises, and factories are forced to close down and deserted. Shooting electronics in Shanghai Songjiang Import and Export Processing Zone is now overgrown with weeds, with the grass taller than the door sign. There are fewer and fewer people in Shanghai. Many factories have moved away or closed down. It is getting harder and harder to work. Also, according to Bloomberg estimates, if Trump takes office and implements his campaign promise to increase tariffs on China by 60%, China's exports to the United States will basically return to zero by 2030, which further worsening the economy of China. This production facility is empty without a soul. Hard to imagine this was once a prosperous company.
Hello，家人们，中午好啊！这个是咱们昨天看的那个放映。
Workshops and factories are closing. Workers hope for a better future for them and their family. Shui Xiaom, associate professor at Fudan University, shares his view about the topic. On January 10, 2024, the paper published a set of statistics from the U.S. Department of Commerce, mainly covering U.S.-China import and export trade data from January to November 2013. The data shows that U.S. imports from China continue to decline over the previous 11 months. For example, while the U.S. previously imported large quantities of mobile phones from China, it now imports more from India. Some home appliances previously imported from China are now sourced from Vietnam. Based on the changes in U.S.-China economic and trade relations reflected in the U.S. Commerce Department statistics, the paper concluded that in 2023, China may fall from its position as America's largest source of imports for the first time ever. After over 40 years of reform and opening up, U.S.-China relations have undergone a qualitative shift. China's ranking among America's import sources may continue to decline. Meanwhile, China's proportion of total U.S. imports will also keep falling. In fact, the downward trend in U.S. imports from China has been observable very early. Economic and geopolitical forces at play. The backdrop to this shift is a complex tapestry of economic policies and geopolitical events. The scrutiny of the Chinese Communist Party (CCP's) economic activities, alongside President Xi Jinping's austere strict COVID policies, has significantly impacted the Chinese economy. Actions perceived as aggressive by the CCP, particularly in the Taiwan Strait and the South China Sea, have further intensified regional tensions and contributed to a deteriorating relationship between China and the United States in military, diplomatic, and economic spheres. Under the Trump administration, the U.S. began imposing tariffs on Chinese imports in 2018, citing violations of global trade rules. This stance found continuity with President Biden's administration, emphasizing confrontation with the CCP as a rare bipartisan consensus. The introduction of the friendshoring policy by the Biden administration marked a strategic pivot aimed at consolidating supply chains within the U.S. and allied countries, essentially dialing back decades of manufacturing production outsourced to China. Also, making U.S. companies and its allies withdraw from China is also part of the trade war. Samsung Heavy Industries appears to be unwavering in its determination to accelerate its withdrawal from China, despite the risks of overflowing orders and labor shortages. Following the closure of Samsung Heavy Industries in Ningbo, the facility in Rongqing, Weihai, which seems to be the last remaining foothold for Samsung Heavy Industries in China, appears destined for closure and liquidation. Reports indicate that Samsung Heavy Industries has been operating at a loss in China due to export hardship, forcing the company to continually shrink its operations in the country. It's worth noting that Samsung Heavy Industries' decision to withdraw from China was not without prior indications. As early as 2018, the company began gradually reducing its operations in China, redirecting its focus towards markets like South Korea and Vietnam. By 2020, Samsung Heavy Industries officially announced a complete exit from the Chinese market. Analysts suggest that, in addition to operational and management issues, the strained trade and political relations between China and South Korea may have influenced Samsung Heavy Industries' decision. However, specific reasons await an official statement from the company. Teradyne, a well-known American semiconductor manufacturer, recently announced that it will withdraw its manufacturing business worth approximately $1 billion from China. Teradyne's move is due to the impact of the U.S. government's technology export controls to China. Teradyne's Suzhou factory in China is its main production base for semiconductor testing equipment. However, due to restrictions on some parts originating from the United States, Teradyne's Suzhou factory in China is its main production base for semiconductor testing equipment. The company had to consider moving its assembly plants to Malaysia. Mexico's rising precedence in U.S. imports. The global pandemic further exacerbated supply chain vulnerabilities, prompting companies to reassess their reliance on distant suppliers. Mexico has emerged as a primary beneficiary of this strategic shift, with its proximity to the U.S. and lower manufacturing costs making it an attractive alternative. The influence of geopolitical risks, accentuated by the Russia-Ukraine conflict and China's perceived alignment with Russia, has driven companies to diversify their supply chains away from China. Significant investments by multinational corporations in Mexico further illustrate this trend. The trade figures reveal a telling story. In 2023, U.S. imports from Mexico surged to $475 billion, up nearly 5% from the previous year, while imports from China plummeted by 20% to $427 billion. This pivot is not solely a matter of economics but reflects a broader reassessment of geopolitical alignments and the desirability of stabilizing and shortening supply chains. This shift in trade dynamics is a barometer of changing economic winds, signaling a move towards more resilient and politically aligned trade practices. The implications for global trade networks are profound, highlighting the influence of geopolitical tensions on economic decisions and the agility with which countries and companies must navigate this new landscape. The transition of the U.S.-China trade relationship into one where Mexico now stands as a leading trade partner to the U.S. represents not just a change in sourcing preferences but a deeper realignment of global economic structures. Amidst these changes, countries and companies are compelled to adapt to the realities of a world where political, economic, and health crises intermingle, shaping the future of global trade in profound and lasting ways. China's economic landscape shattered by the brutal waves of the U.S.-China trade war. The economic landscape of China has faced significant turbulence due to the escalating trade war with the United States. This confrontation between the world's two largest economies has not only reshaped global trade dynamics but also imposed profound economic repercussions on China, demonstrating the vulnerability of its export-led growth model to international policy shifts. The U.S. government's decision to increase tariff rates drastically on a substantial volume of commodities imported from China marked a departure from decades of trade liberalization, bringing to light the fragility of China's economic prosperity tied to its access to global markets. Qinglin Sanitary Ware, due to hardship, has moved out of Shenzhen, leaving behind an empty factory. The largest factory in Shaojing, Shenzhen, was relocated. Most of the workers left and nearby shops closed down. The imposition of tariffs by the U.S., peaking at 25 percentage points on $50 billion worth of commodities and 10 percentage points on $200 billion more, aimed to penalize China for long-standing grievances over intellectual property theft and forced technology transfer practices. However, beneath the surface of these political maneuvers lies the heavy toll these policies have inflicted on China's economic engines, its exporting firms, Stanford University's China Briefs. Research leveraging exhaustive proprietary data from approximately 20,000 firms in a prefecture-level city in eastern China, reflective of the broader national trend, reveals that the tariff hikes have significantly dented the profitability of Chinese exporters. Despite their efforts to maintain export prices, the tariffs have led to a notable decrease in sales volumes to the U.S., constricting firms' revenue streams and profits. It is not a rare sight to see this scene. The current situation of an industrial zone in Foshan, Guangdong, its glory has become a thing of the past. This economic strife has reverberated beyond corporate bottom lines, affecting the broader Chinese economy. According to the National Bureau of Economic Research, by late 2019, China faced retaliatory tariffs on $100 billion of its exports, NBER. This tit-for-tat tariff escalation constrains the flow of goods, distorting market operations and the efficient allocation of resources. Furthermore, the World Trade Organization outlines that the trade conflict has precipitated a sizable reduction in trade between the U.S. and China, leading to significant trade diversion and the subsequent reconfiguration of East Asian value chains, WTO. These disruptions underscore the trade war's role in unsettling the economic foundation of not only China but also the intricate web of global trade relations. The trade war's impact is not limited to macroeconomic indicators but extends to the livelihoods of the Chinese populace. Innovative research by Davin Shore at Tuck Schools, utilizing satellite imagery to assess economic activity, indicates a palpable decline in manufacturing employment and per capita income in regions most exposed to U.S. tariffs. This decline is emblematic of the human cost of the trade war, translating into lost jobs, diminished incomes, and an exacerbation of economic inequality within China. The U.S.-China trade war has inflicted deep economic wounds on China, challenging the tenacity of its export-oriented growth model and exposing the intricacies of its integration with the global economy. The repercussions of these policy decisions manifest not only in statistical declines in trade volumes and GDP growth rates but also in the diminished economic welfare of millions of Chinese citizens. As the trade war narrative unfolds, it becomes increasingly apparent that the true cost of these tariffs transcends mercurial political victories, embedding itself in the very fabric of China's economic and social landscape.